Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Uh, now we're live.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Initially, I said you had the video stopped and the mute on. So, at any rate, I
Um,
couldn't I couldn't unmute him and I couldn't turn the video on. Mm.
Steve had that problem a couple weeks ago, and turns out you have to click on the thing that says that we're recording the thing before you can unmute, and
Oh, okay.
so
I had not done that.
so that is.
A feature.
I was going to say newish, but yes, it's a feature. It's
Okay.
it is something that apparently they didn't tell anybody about. Because you remember maybe a month ago we had the same problem.
Yeah, I haven't run into that was not a feature 2 months ago, I'll put it that way.
Right.
So, at any rate, so I assume Steve is wending his way to midpoint.
Well, hopefully he gets he's there. He said he
Okay.
was planning on going to the library, so
Okay. How you feeling?
uh, um I'm better, but I'm not I'm not great.
So
Um
this is fever or head drainage or what?
it I had a low grade fever. Actually, it got pretty high for a little bit. That finally broke, and it's really just like the coughing is down here. You can feel it. It's like in your
Oh,
stomach.
so
In
it's not up in the throat, it's down in the lungs. No.
Yeah, and it's miserable, and it hasn't gotten any better. Not really.
Are
Um,
you getting plenty of sleep?
I so the grandkid says I get too much sleep. Patty says I don't get enough sleep. So one of the two have to be right, right?
Oh, well,
Some
each has their own perspective, I
I'm
guess.
I am somewhere in between. So I am still the only one that drives. So I have to take Thea to school. I have to take Patty to work. I come home and I go back to sleep for a while. Then I have to get up and get something to eat because not doing anybody any good if I don't eat. And then I'm out
So,
picking her up from school and then picking Patty up, come back home and lay down for a little while. So my sleep is very intermittent, but I think I get plenty of sleep. It
you
might be
just
a
don't
couple.
get it all in one slug.
Yeah, it's a couple hours here, a couple hours there. And of course, Thea, she's got this thing. Papal, if you sleep during the day, you won't sleep at night.
She heard that from somebody.
Yep. And I mean, I never really slept at night, so
Okay.
that never really was my thing anyways.
So is she a full time tenant now, or
Uh we still have her for now.
so is she staying at your house all the
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
Mm.
We found out today, her daddy's doing what he's supposed to be doing. So hopefully this doesn't last much longer. Cuz we've got a one bedroom apartment, and
That
it's
makes it
not,
cozy.
it's not, it's not fun with 3 people
No.
here.
Mm.
And, you know, I don't mind her staying. It's just, oh, stuff is everywhere.
Yeah, well,
I
yeah.
have stuff and she has stuff and it's everywhere. So,
Well, she's a well-behaved kid, so you know.
for the most part, she misses her daddy, and when she gets to see him, she gets upset when she can't stay with him. So we get a little bit of the fallout from that, but there's not a whole lot we can do about it.
Yep.
So, but yeah, she kind of sort of understands what's going on, but not not really enough to know, one way or
Well,
the
how old
other.
is she? How old is she?
She's 8,
Uh-huh.
so
So she's on the edge there.
yeah, she. I think I told you guys last week that um her other grandmother had her and was in a car wreck, and she had to call us, and she was crying because she thought that her grandmother was going to get taken away from her because she was in a car wreck, and that's not really how car wrecks work. That's not why her mommy got taken away. So
So she doesn't see her mother at all?
no, she does. Um,
Okay.
it's it's not often, but um, I don't want to say too much over the internet about
Yeah, well, I understand.
that. But eh, her mom's got her own issues. So
Well, we all do, let's face it. None of us is perfect.
yeah,
Hey,
it's Steve.
Greetings.
how you doing, Steve?
I'm doing well.
You're at home today.
No, I'm in the library.
He's at the library.
Okay, all right.
Yep. Telltale
Did,
sign at the
did
tile ceiling.
did they I take it they didn't give you any heat about okay.
Nope.
I think there's one new librarian up there who doesn't know us, and she asked me a couple of times who I was and why I wanted the room and whatever. But most of the ones, they just know us. Just go on back. It's
Yeah,
open.
Yeah.
it was open, and actually, I didn't recognize any of the people here today.
Yeah. Well,
Well, it is a really nice library. I don't know about the personnel, but it's a really nice library, I'll tell you.
yeah, uh I've only been like I think I've been questioned twice. And even when I first started going there, I had a box full of robots, and one of
Mm-hmm.
the one of the librarians said, "Oh, are you for that automation thing?" Yeah. Probably a half hour before we were even supposed to be there, she opened the room up and said, "Go ahead, set up your stuff." And I'm like, okay. Didn't ask me who I was or anything. Just knew I had robots. But
Boys,
that was well before COVID. That was 4 or 5 years before COVID. So
I remember that time.
yeah,
Yeah. When the world was still normal.
normal. Uh, Yes, we're in normal adjacent right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we are. I'm still confused.
Yeah. Well, like we had a visit today from the caseworker for the and I told him, I've been sick, and he said, "Okay, I'm not going to stay very long." So, because he did not want to get sick. It's like thanks for telling me, because people don't tell me.
There's a lot of stuff going around right now.
Yeah. Well, and our weather has been, I hate this weather because
Oh, it goes up and down and up and down, and
we're
rains
70
one day.
degrees and it's poured down rain, and yeah. So, yeah, the weather is killing me as much as anything else. And then the trees decided that it was pollen time, which
Yeah.
I think is a little early for them.
Well, it's early for you guys. We're right in the heat of the pollen right now. And I'm not usually affected by this stuff, but Barbara, of course, has asthma, and she is. But this year doesn't doesn't take much to turn on the faucet in my nose.
Well,
I mean,
I for the most part, pollen doesn't bother me, except I've been sick, and I went outside and the pollen was flying around, and I'm sneezing and coughing at the same time. I'm just going, I'm miserable. Come on, weather, do something.
yeah, when I was living in New Jersey, I had a boss who was apparently very allergic to grass. And for some reason or another, every year he would, the first crack of spring, boy, he'd get that lawnmower out and, and then he'd come to work and complain about how miserable he was. You know,
There's, I might be able to find it on Google Maps. There's a house in Middletown that the guy was so allergic to grass and grass trimmings that he tore up all the grass in his yard and laid gravel down. And he even
That didn't make much difference.
yeah, I imagine that it only helped him momentarily, because as soon as his neighbors would start.
oh
But
yeah.
I've been told that he tried to get his neighbors to do the same thing so that he could survive. And he ended up selling that house, and that turned out to be a feature, because I was like, we ought to go look at that house, because I don't like mowing the yard. Not that I'm allergic to grass, I just don't want to mow the yard.
Whoa. Come on down over on this side. Since we're the only ones here. All I got is the webcam.
Oh,
Hey there.
hi.
Oh. Greetings.
Long time no see.
Yeah, that's true.
When I lived in Arizona, there were a huge number of houses that had pea gravel for their yards,
Oh yeah.
and they would paint it. Green painted pea gravel. This is just like home.
I'm surprised they didn't do it like the military and paint it in waving red, white, and blue stripes.
Yeah. Well, it was Tucson, a little close to the southern border. Leroy's not feeling well.
I got that message also, and your message saying that you were going to be here.
Yeah, jeez. Yeah.
And while COVID is diminished in our thoughts, it's still around. So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just as you
I-
on the screen if you feel feeling poorly.
I don't think what I have is COVID though. It's down here. You know, I think it's really just a chest cold. Like,
Hope so.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, Mike, did you ever get your CGM working?
Yeah, I'm wearing it now, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. What
And
what is that? Freestyle?
yeah, Libra
Libra 2.
Three or two?
2.
Yeah, it's the same as the one I've got. Which, since I've got this flesh colored uh
Oh yeah.
Band-Aid.
yeah, well, believe it or not, it makes a huge difference in both in terms of the thing staying on there for the full 14 days and staying working. It turns out they don't work underwater too well. Um, so you can, if you don't cover them up with something, they are subject to showers and so forth and so on.
Really?
Um,
I
they,
never had any issue.
yeah, they've given
Really?
me a clear adhesive patch. It's probably 4x5, maybe a little smaller than that. It's
Yeah.
quite sticky, and that goes over the top of this. And I don't put it on all the time. If this is going to be, let's see, this is Thursday. I think this one ends in like 2 days. I won't put another one over the top of it. But the statistical package that comes out of this, the report that goes to the doctors and stuff, if you're a statistician, and you get into that, I think you're going to be orgasmic.
Okay.
Well, it's like 150-page report, and it's the time in target and the inflection point and this. And it's like, okay,
The amount of data they collect on you from one little thing.
they
Well,
do it continuously, and I don't know how finally it is recording, whether it's minute by minute or every 5 minutes or exactly what the interval
it's
is.
supposed to be every 10 minutes.
Every 5 minutes.
Every
Is
5.
it 5?
The Libre 3 is.
The Libre 3. What about the 2, though?
I don't know. The charts look the same between mine and the 2, so I had assumed they had the same interval. I've got a 3 and Marla has a 2.
Is that intentional or happenstance?
Just happenstance.
Well, since this isn't a rapidly fluctuating thing that we're trying to measure, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 is not really going to make that much difference. I did discover last fall, before we headed out on our 7,000-mile vacation, the Friday before we were leaving, my wife finagled the VA into giving me a cortisone injection in both hips, so I'd be able to walk. And I got that 7 o'clock on Friday morning, and about 11 o'clock, my numbers started climbing, and they exceeded the 400 that this will be able to monitor. And I started giving myself the highest level of fast-acting insulin I could every 2 hours, all through the night until 6 o'clock Saturday morning, when it finally came back down below 400.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, I'm done with this. And about 2 or 3 hours later, it started climbing again. And I had the same problem until Sunday morning. Now, people said, oh, you should have gone to the hospital. It's like, well, I don't want to be stuck in the hospital because we're leaving on vacation Monday morning.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm monitoring it. I'm taking care of it. There are emergency rooms along the way if I have to go that route.
So you were taking a steroid or what?
It's a cortisone injection for the deterioration in my hips. And it's a temporary relief from the pain associated with that.
Okay, well, I had the same problem. They put me on cortisone for something or another, and all of a sudden my glucose reading went high, and they said, well, that's normal. That's what my PCP said.
Yeah.
And you expect that when you're on, I think it's any steroid, but I mean, cortisone is a steroid, okay? But why it does that, I don't know. I kicked the liver in the backside, or because my pancreas isn't making any more insulin. We've already determined that. That's the reason I'm on injected insulin all the time. But my what's
So you're basically a type 1 or a type 2?
well, it didn't happen until I was 62 or 63, something like that. So I think by definition, I'm a type 2. But over the years, they were able to give me various medications that would kick the pancreas and cause it to produce insulin. Well, eventually I got to the point where that medication wasn't working because the pancreas had said, I'm out of here. You're not going to get any more insulin from me. So that's when I had to go on injected insulin, and I've been there for, I don't know. It was post the beginning of COVID, but not real recent. So I think about 3 years. And initially, I thought this was really pain, but you get used to it. And now with the CBG or CGV, or what is it? Continuous glucose
CGM.
CGM. With the CGM, it's easy because all I have to do is wave my phone over it and I get the instant reading, and I know, I've done it often enough now. I can figure out how much insulin I need to take to counteract whatever the spike was and so forth. So to me, it's kind of an interesting exercise.
Yeah, but it's also kind of a pain in the butt because for me, I have to check the reading, look on my little sliding scale to see what dosage for rapid acting insulin, set the pin for that. And then if it's time for long acting insulin, get that out, draw that up, record it in my phone so that the healthcare provider will have that information from every time I do it. And invariably, when I sit down at the table to do that, oh, I need an insulin pin needle for the pin, or my syringes are out. I got to go downstairs and get another bag of syringes. Oh, the insulin pin is like 2 units short of what I need to get. So I need to get one of those, and then I get a pin, and oh gosh, it's not terribly hard. It's not. complicated or
It's
complex.
tedious. It's tedious.
It's a pain. And my wife was a corpsman in the Navy, as some of you may know. When she enlisted at age 18, they put her on a tugboat as
Okay.
a winch operator, hauling nuclear subs in and out of Groton, Connecticut. But she
Fun, fun,
eventually
fun.
became a corpsman. So she takes pity on me occasionally and says, "Would you like me to shoot you?" It's like, yeah. And somehow or another, I think she gets some sadistic pleasure out of
Yeah.
making me pain in the ass.
So far, I haven't turned the syringes over to my wife because it's called prudence.
Well, I give myself 4 shots a day, so it gets a little tiresome.
I'm doing 1.
Yeah, I'm hitting probably 150 units a day.
Oh, okay. I'm at 10.
Oh,
So slow acting.
Oh,
I'm at 60 on the slow acting and 38 up to 60 on the fast acting.
Wow.
how fast is that? I don't use the fast acting at all. I only use the slow acting. How fast is the fast acting? I mean, slow acting has a half-life of 6 hours or something like that.
I will give this. You don't have to scan the Libre 3.
Yeah.
At a range of about 30 feet, and they cost the same after insurance. So you may want to talk to your doctor about changing that prescription.
Yeah. I already had that conversation and he said,
It's
that's
also
what,
smaller. It's
yeah,
about
I know it's
about
small in
half
diameter.
as thick. I've never put a cover over mine for a shower. I've never had it do anything weird. Of course, I don't know, maybe it is doing something weird. My doctor's just giving me insulin for it. Took a shower.
Well, best I can tell, now these are numbers that just showed up when I pulled this up from the 5th. And it looks to me like, let's see, I don't know whether you
It
can
should pick
see
it up.
that.
Mm,
Of course, it's left for right.
Yeah.
188.
no, that's mine. It's turned around right. So
Oh, really?
those are numbers of what? What are the units there?
That's micrograms of
That's
sugar
the
per,
glucose reading.
yeah, per deciliter.
And that 386 is pretty darn high.
And that happens because my numbers start climbing at about 11 o'clock at night. And they climb during the course of the night. So that's a morning reading.
386 is a morning reading.
Yeah.
I have exactly the opposite problem. I get awakened by the alarm going off because my glucose has gone below 70.
Yeah, those nighttime crashes. I'll go forever with them.
You got
Excuse me.
you got
Suspected
suspected spam.
Yeah. I don't know who they are or why they keep calling. And my phone doesn't like my finger. The point here though is I gave myself this long acting 60 and a short acting. And you can see from 1226 to 149, the numbers dropped about 80 units.
Okay.
And that's primarily from the rapid acting. And it continued on, 222, it was down to 241.
Mm-hmm.
What I was talking about from the injection on the cortisone last fall, that would be the best example, but all the readings were above 400. So it
Wow.
doesn't tell you anything. Yeah, being above 400 for all the night and the next morning, that was attention getting.
Do you feel that?
Oh yes.
No, I didn't. I found out I had diabetes when I took a physical for a job, and I was on my second donut, second Mountain Dew, and they said, "Can you sit down for a minute? And we need to take a blood sample." Okay. Just, how do you feel right now? Fine. All good. Why? What's up? Your glucose is at 725. Like, yeah,
Whoa.
okay.
Well,
What's it supposed to be?
there's a theory, and I don't know whether it's currently in vogue or not, but when I was in graduate school, decades ago, it's called set point. And your body will eventually establish a point where it is now comfortable with.
Mhm.
And so over time, you probably increase that set point so that 725, if you were at 650, you'd say, "Oh, I need something sweet."
I honestly, until I get down in the 60s, I don't notice it. At 60, 55, then it's like, yeah, I'm not right. But anything above that, I feel fine.
They have worked for a couple of years to make sure I don't have nighttime crashes. Those are just scary, is the only way to describe that. I was down in the low 50s, and it awakened me. I knew what it was. I had glucose tablets on the bedside table, and I could not get them, and I could not roll over and wake up my wife to get them.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, like I said, that's scary.
Yeah, I had that. I had something similar to that, except that I think the low point was 37,
Whoa.
Damn.
and but I got up, fell on the floor. My wife woke up my wife, and she helped me get to the kitchen. At that time, I didn't have glucose tablets. I would just take a piece of bread or something like that. The problem is bread takes a while to generate glucose, whereas the glucose tablets, they'll go pretty fast. I get these things from Walmart, kind of thing like that. And I throw down 2 of those and I'm back. But when I go really low, I get shaky and sweaty and but when I go high, I don't seem to, but knock wood, I'm not up in the 400 range. When I go high, I get above 200, and it just spikes up there for a short period of time. And then with the thing is, the slow glucose takes a lot longer to take action than the food does. Typical, take a meal and depending on what I eat, obviously, it'll go zoom up like that. Whereas it takes a while for the slow insulin to go to work. At any rate,
Do you get any vision changes when your blood sugars are low?
I do not, but I do have retinal scans a couple times a year because and they're looking for damage, obviously. Thus far, knock wood, haven't had any, but as far as do I sense any difference? No.
I perceive a change in colors and sometimes a narrowing of my field of view.
Damn, some of us pay for that.
Well,
I paid not to have that.
you don't have any macular degeneration, do you?
No, they are also monitoring me for that about every 3 months, every 4 months. And fortunately, I haven't had any of that. You were talking about prednisone, and as many of you know, it's no secret, I have Crohn's disease, and before I was diagnosed, I had hunted and tried to find out what was the problem. I spent 15 years trying to get a diagnosis. And I wasn't diagnosed until Cleveland Clinic at age 35. And the 3 years before that, they had me on 160 milligrams a day for 3 years. And I told people I had all the side effects other than psychosis, and I was working on that. But it definitely gave me the giant moon face and fatty buildup and all sorts of other problems. But that was the first time that I had problems with my blood sugar at age 35. And that all seemed to go away for 20 years or so.
So did you didn't have diabetes as a kid then, right?
Oh, no, not at all.
No, I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was 61, and it's funny. I had a PCP that I'd had for something like 30 years at that point, and he was a funny guy. Unfortunately, he's not around anymore. But when I was like 59, I was tested, and it was part of the routine test. They just did a diabetes. It was when you used to do a fasting diabetes test.
Yeah.
And so I was there for my annual physical when I think I was 61. And he came in and said, "Boy, your sugar is the shits." Okay. Want to give me some more detail? And initially, all he had to do is give me something. I forget what it was called.
Like metformin or something like that.
No. Metformin, I'm still on,
Okay.
but that takes care of the sugar that comes out of the liver. But I was on something called glipizide, I think.
Yeah.
What it did was basically just prompt the pancreas to produce more. But I eventually got to the point where pancreas said, "I'm retired." So, so then they put me on the insulin injection, and I was on that for several years before there was a change in Medicare a year ago, I think, at least here in California, and all of a sudden the CGMs became covered. So Medicare covered them, and once that happened, Kaiser said, Here's your box of,
Last medication, excuse me, the last medication they put me on, I believe, was Aliquipin. And just after they filled it, they changed me away. So I've got $2,000 worth of unopened bottles sitting in the cabinet. It's like, I would dearly like to find someone who can use that medication, because they're, Julie and I are very fortunate. And yeah, $2,000 is a lot of money, but it's not going to put us on the street. Some people it would. This is kind of an aside. My brother called up, 2002 or so, and said, I got this great deal on an old Mercedes. And if you fly out here to California, you can have it and drive it back to Ohio. And we thought about it and said, no, it'd be pretty cool to have a Mercedes diesel. So he thought about it and said, well, you know, going back through the mountains, better have the brakes fixed. And, you know, the tires got some age on them. We better have the tires worked on. And the rubber's getting old. And is about this point, his wife says, oh, yes, the bargain car. Well, we made it as far as the mountains, this side of Bakersfield, and the car died on us. Had to have it towed to the Mercedes dealership. He had diagnosed it as the injector pump, and said it's not worth fixing. You know, maybe if you had a place to stay and we took it off and sent it to Bosch in San Francisco and they rebuilt it and came back, but you got to figure your time in a hotel for 2 weeks, their time to rebuild it, my time to take it out and install it. And so we're walking back to the hotel, and my wife says, you know, we're really, really lucky. Some people, their car dies and they're picking up aluminum cans in the Kmart parking lot in order to get enough money for lunch.
yeah, we've had some experiences with cars like that. I'm with the point have always been where I figure if a car will start up and run, it's worth repairing. So needless to say, I don't buy new cars very often. I think my last two Toyotas before the most recent one was a 79. Yeah, 79. I got rid of that in 2003 and so forth and so on. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't care about appearance or whatever. I just want the thing to get me from point A to point B and so forth and so on. And not have the floorboards drop away so my feet drag on the ground.
You view it as a means of transportation, not a symbol of self-indulgence.
That's correct. Not a symbol of self-indulgence. So
I
most
drive a 16-year-old car.
that was pre-owned by the police department.
That was pre-owned by the police department. And I take care of it and I fix it. My wife is impressed. I actually fix cars. I used to, if a car died, of course, this was the day when I was working delivering pizzas, and I could find cars out on the street for $200. So when a car died, I would just go and buy another $200 car and make some money off of it until it died. But
I took that even further. I took pretty good care of cars, and most cars, if you change the oil, they'll just keep going.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a car that wouldn't do 200,000 miles built in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
At one point, I had a 78 Mustang, the worst year for Mustangs. with a straight six. We paid $75 for the car. Drove it for over 100,000 miles. I sold it for $75. I had a lot of cars that I'd drive for 4 or 5 years and sell them for what I paid for them. They'd just keep going. If I was driving down the road and I saw a newer car that was cheap, I'll just go buy it, whatever. At one point, I had like 8 cars.
Yep.
And you keep them in rotation. You don't let one sit, and you sure as hell don't park it in the yard because that'll rust them out so fast.
When I was delivering,
No, yeah, I
Yeah.
never worried about that.
when I was delivering, I think I had 15 cars at one point.
Oh,
I had registered so many cars that the girl at the DMV had told me if I get one more car, I would have to get a dealer license. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm not getting any more cars for a while.
Well,
but the advantage
certainly,
of the dealer's license is you can get 4 or 5 plates and just move them around.
Yeah. I had probably the worst car I ever bought was, I don't even remember what it was, a Toyota, and it had 2 broken motor mounts
Ooh.
in it.
well,
And
it's only
that
got
thing-
4.
Yeah, exactly. It was a decent enough car. I think I paid $50 for that car. It was a decent enough car as long as you could park it on a flat surface. But as soon as you parked it on a hill, you were never either going to get it out of gear or going to get it started. Or in some cases, both. I called my boss up who had a big truck, and I was stuck in somebody's driveway, could not get the car out of gear, and he came along and he just hooked a tow cable to it and kind of sort of just yanked it out of the driveway to a flat surface, and the transmission was going the whole time. I mean, it was in gear, it was screaming. It was not a happy car. That car ended up at a salvage yard, and I think I got $150 out of it for scrap. So I made money. I made money doing the delivering pizzas in it, and I actually made money off of it by selling it to the scrap yard.
I've had a few cars that I got more for scrap than I paid for.
That was probably the absolute worst car I had ever bought. Ever.
Well, my worst one was a 1974 Pinto.
Oh,
You
Yep.
may have heard of it. It's the
Yeah.
one that you got rear-ended.
I had the only car that I had ever bought brand new was a Ford Escort. And
Yeah.
I was stupid. I was young. I didn't understand oil and all that stuff. I drove that thing for probably 100,000 miles without oil in it.
ooh,
And then I drove it after one of the rods went through the thing. I drove it for another, I don't know, 5,000 miles or so to get it somewhere so I
well,
could just
the
sell it
cousin
for
to
scrap.
that car, the cousin to that car was Ford EXP or Mercury LM7. They still had the same really crappy 1.6 liter engine, 4-cylinder engine. And I'd put fully synthetic oil in it from the time that I got it. And if you were driving down the highway, it sounded like you were running a sewing machine with a 50 horsepower electric motor DC. It's like my daughter borrowed it, and she was used to driving by sound. and she over revved the engine and it threw a rod. And the skirt was gone on the piston. The rod was broken and it had gone down through the oil pan. It had all sorts of debris. It wasn't worth repairing. I had taken really good care of that engine. And I could have replaced the engine, but I don't know what I would have gotten. It's somebody else's heartbreak or whatever. But it was interesting. I pulled the head off of it and put the compressed air line in the dipstick spot and put a little air in it. And the piston that was down in the cylinder went, whoop, it popped up in the air, and I was able to catch it. It made it sound like the kid's whistle, whoop.
The Escort, when it threw a rod, it threw it through the top. So I had this rod just beating the crap out of the top of the hood. And by the time I got it to where I was going, there was this nice rod size hole beat in the hood. And I'm like, I don't care.
It's kind of like a beauty mark.
Yeah. I was like, like I said, I was pretty ignorant about cars at the time. That was one of the lessons. My dad had always said, make sure you change oil and stuff. And I'm like, what does the old man know?
Just keep adding oil.
So that was the one car that I bought that was brand spanking new, and the one that I probably should have taken care of and didn't. All the other ones were just cheap cars to deliver pizza in, and delivering pizza is hard. It's a hard life for a car. So I wasn't expecting them to last long because they were only a couple $100 cars in the first place. But
my nephew is an auto body mechanic in Kansas City, and he bought from the insurance company a Ford Windstar that had been wrecked in the front. I think he paid like $200 for it. Being an auto body mechanic, it wasn't anything other than kind of hobby homework for him to repair it and get it going again. He and his wife drove it, I don't know, 50 or 60,000 miles. And then it was wrecked in the rear, and the insurance totaled it again, and he bought it back from the insurance company for $104. And it again, it's all auto body repair. So he called me up and said, hey, would you guys be interested in buying this? I'll sell you the van and 4 new tires for $400. And said, well, yeah, we can't go wrong with that. So we drove the car and drove it until everything just about wore out. And my wife had gone to work, and she, calls me up and says, the car is running in the parking lot. I can't get it to shut off. And I said, well, pull the keys out of it. She says, I'm standing in the pharmacy with the keys in my hand. The car is locked up in the parking lot running. So it's like, okay. So I drove down to where she was working and dropped off the vehicle that I had driven in, unlocked the car, got in there, put a key in there because I didn't want to be driving home and have the wheel lock. So I get home and it's like, well, how the hell am I going to turn this off now? But I know. I'll pull the fuse on the electronic fuel pump. And so the door is open and I'm hunting in the fuse panel, trying to find out which is the fuse for the fuel pump. And my priority changed. It went from finding the fuel pump fuse to finding that damn buzzer. So eventually I get in there and I can see it's a tilt wheel, and I think I can look in it. It looks like a rack and pinion that's jumped a cog. And I think I can get a screwdriver in there and whack that and get it to jump a cog backwards. But I couldn't quite tell what the mechanism was. So I went upstairs and looked on the internet. And apparently this is fairly common because it came up right away. And they say, don't put a screwdriver in there and whack it with a hammer because it'll set off the airbags. You'll be wearing that screwdriver in the middle of your forehead. So I called the dealership. They wanted some outrageous price, like $150 or $170 to take the wheel off and fix that. Well, we didn't pay that much for the van to begin with, so I'm not going to do that. So we take the bottom of the dash off and the armor plating that keeps people from hot wiring it. And there's a switch about the size of my hand, and it has 4 positions, you know, accessory, off, run, and start. So we just left it hanging down and left the key in the ignition. It didn't do anything except keep the wheel from locking. And we drove that for 2 years or so. And it's like, if somebody does figure out what that switch is for, they can have the car.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're innovative enough to figure that out. So we eventually traded it in, and we got $1,000 trading a Ford for a Ford. And I don't know, like $700 for the vehicle. And we're in the little office, we're signing the paperwork and stuff. And the salesman comes in and says, how do you start that car anyway? And my wife, in the most deadpan, serious manner, says, oh, you have to hotwire it. and the salesman and the guy in the little office, both of them get this look like, what have we bought? So that was a long time ago. Hi, Ray.
Hi, Ray.
I had a Ford Econoline, 65 Ford Econoline that had a toggle switch for the starter and the ignition. So 2 switches. Flip one to turn all the buzzers and everything on, the other one to start it. You had to physically flip it back off to not leave the starter engaged.
You had an RV that had a push button starter,
which I no longer have. I don't know if it's still sitting there, but I'm not being charged for it.
It's not mine anymore. I'm done with it. Yeah.
Now, I realize everybody here is all right with having a toggle switch to start the car and
Yep.
run the car. And no one seems to be shocked. But if you go out in the library here and you tell people, oh, we have 2 switches.
Push button starters, no problem. Toggle switches, it's all good.
I had,
Crawling under the car in the mud to start it with a screwdriver, not so much.
I had one car that had a foot pedal to start it. That was fun. That was a 56 Buick something. I don't remember.
Yeah, in the upper left-hand corner of the floorboard.
Yep.
It was
Right next to the
about
high
that big
beam.
around.
Right next to the high beam switch.
Well, the Fords in the early 50s had a push button on the dash panel, and that was the starter. And so you would turn on the ignition, and then you had to push that, and that spun the starter until it caught. And somehow or another, the whole starter mechanism released once the engine caught. Otherwise, you'd have it there spinning around, driving the starter motor. But they had a button that was just like a regular round doorbell push button.
Mhm.
And Of course, those were mostly stick shifts too. They were not. This was pre-automatic transmission. I remember my dad bought a 1955 Chevy, and automatic transmissions on the 55 Chevy were definitely was kind of like a Microsoft operating system. You know, it was an experiment, and essentially he paid for those days a lot of money for this thing. It was a station wagon, huge station wagon, and I think that car spent like the first 6 months or 8 months or whatever with the transmission laying in pieces on the dealer's work area. But it was definitely experimental. I think 55 was the first year they had automatic transmissions on those cars.
I can just see the mechanic, he's flipping through the manual and he comes up with a blue page that says, in order to avoid seeing this message, always shut your machine down properly.
Dad, I don't remember what it was, but it was an older car from like the 50s. And I'm fairly sure that its starter was on the column. He'd pull the lever forward to get it to start.
Well, the shift lever was on the column.
Yeah, the shift lever, but I'm fairly certain that you'd pull that shift lever forward and it would start the car.
This was a Chevy or Ford?
I don't remember I think it was an AMC, but Dad
AMC.
Dad had a
Okay.
lot of AMC stuff.
I know the 65 AMCs were started with the key switch.
I don't really remember what it was. I was pretty young when he had them, so.
Well, I think
I know
I'm probably older than everybody here. But my recollection was we had a Nash. And
Oh, yeah. A
the only
Rambler?
thing I can remember about Nash was I had a little toy and I dropped it down in the slot where the window's going up.
Yep.
And I wanted my parents to get it out of there. And they said, "Oh, we'll get it out when we sell the car." thinking that I would forget.
Dad,
You're still looking for that Nash.
Dad
That
had
was 71 years ago and I haven't forgotten it.
Okay,
Dad
but-
had a Nash Ambassador. And he
It had a rope across the bench seat in the front. And I do not remember the model number, but the
Dad-
rope was great.
Dad had a Nash Ambassador, and he had some Ramblers, but I don't think that those were the ones that had the starter on the column. He had something else for a while that had. I'm fairly sure the starter was on the column.
Well, the Fords had this starter button on the dash panel just to the right of the steering column. That I remember very clearly.
Yeah,
Because you had to get it timed just right so that because the ignition and the starter motor were not in any way coordinated. So, whoops.
For a sugar tap.
I don't remember what car that was. I remember the Nash because we played around with that in parades. That was a nice car. That was a big car with a little teeny tiny engine. Huge car. So let's find out what Mr. Vicente is up to, because I know Vicente's up to stuff.
Me?
Yeah, I know you're up to
No.
something.
But I am working in the basement assembling the PCBs I showed last week.
Yeah.
So I have a picture, but
I'm sorry, I didn't
I
quite
don't
catch
have
that.
what?
Pardon me, I didn't quite catch what you said.
Okay, I last week I showed a couple of PCB boards that I was designing, and I ordered them on Saturday night. And this morning they arrived from China, done very fast, impressive. Let me show this.
Uh-oh.
This is the couple of boards I showed last week. This one and this one. I ordered Saturday morning, but they stopped the order until I answered several technical questions. I replied by 11 p.m. and they started the production. And this morning the boards were in my front door. Very, very fast. They were usually the pads in a PCB, they have a mask to keep the solder area open. You see these holes, but I am using only the top of the holes for programming with a pogo pins, and the bottom I removed the mask from the bottom, so they thought that it was an error, so they asked me what happened with those holes in the bottom. They say, and I asked them to put the mask all over the bottom, because the idea is that you can use this device in a metal surface without producing shorts, you know? So no metal pads in the bottom of the ruler. And I have this in the basement now. I'm assembling the new board. Maybe I show it the next week. I was impressed by the speed of the shipping and delivery was really fast. The boards cost like $10 and the shipping $19, so $28 for 5 boards of each design, you know. That's it. I'm doing a lot of programming lately for my project about the location using sound. I'm programming the boards ESP32.
Okay.
Nice.
This microphone array is from the Google Voice Kit. So you have 2 holes that are 2 microphones in the board. The idea is that you can fix the position of each microphone, so you will know the orientation of your robot, because you know the position of each point of this board, so you can rotate the robot and you will know exactly where each microphone is located, so you know the your robot is the center of this board, and the robot is heading in one direction. So you can move in a space just using the ultrasonic location, sonic location.
Nice.
I had a lot of complications to.
What frequency is it? The
I-
ultrasonic signal.
No, it's sonic. It's between 16 and 20 kilohertz. It's in the sound range, in the audio range, but very high and very short. You cannot hear anything.
So it's a very short pulse of,
Very short.
okay.
That's ultrasonic for me.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, 15K is
Yeah.
a long ways above my, my hearing.
1600 is above normal hearing for normal people above 45 years old.
Okay, well, I can't even remember when I was 45 years old.
Well, the idea is that the pulse needs to be very high frequency and very short in time, so it don't bother dogs or bats or whatever. And well, I'm working on that.
Cool.
I was working in the amplifier. You can program the gain of the amplifier or the beacon. So I am changing the gain depending on the distance to keep the pulse more or less the same size. It doesn't matter the distance from your robot to the beacon. I increase the volume to keep the signal above the minimum level. And it's working.
Cool.
I have for my experiment, I have I don't know if you see there somewhere. Let me pick up the transmitter.
Getting nauseous.
Oh, yeah.
I'm impressed that you have a flat space on your table. All my flat spaces are triple piled.
This is the beacon.
Mhm.
I am testing with different speakers. I was testing with a dozen of speakers because I need high definition in the high frequencies. So a lot of speakers doesn't work. So the master send a message to the beacon asking for a pulse, and I measure the time between the asking and the receiving the pulse to estimate the distance. Till now, I have nice values, you know. Let me share this.
Okay.
It's boring, but we have nothing else to do. Okay, screen. And this is a spreadsheet. Okay. So I used to take samples of the distance. I take 200 samples, okay, and then I calculate the average of the distance and calculate the deviation from the values. This is 0.3 centimeters, so 3.4 millimeters. You see? And after 200 samples, the distance value changed from minus 0.9 centimeters to plus 0.64 centimeters. So you have like a very nice position of your master. For example, I put the beacon. This is the distance of the beacon, the real distance. I don't have there is no still there is not calibrated the system. You need to adjust the real distance, but this is the value after 200 samples, the average value. Let me increase this.
Is that a pretty good Gaussian distribution on those?
I didn't check that. I'm just compute the average of all the samples. Okay. Let me move here. The average of 200 samples is 361.8 centimeters. The standard deviation is 0.35 centimeters. And the maximum deviation from the value, one sample is 1 centimeter down, and another sample is 0.8 centimeter above. So this is the maximum dispersion of your values, you know. So your beacon is 3.7 meters away. Actually, these values doesn't change with distance, you know. Doesn't matter how far is your beacon, the distribution and the precision is the same, because they move up through the air. Let's look for a shorter distance. It's 4 meters. For example, this is 56 centimeters, okay? And look, the deviation is almost the same. So the distance doesn't change the precision of the system, you know?
Mhm.
And I am polishing the software to go outside and try 100 meters or so. So I can use this in the mowings, in the grass mower to move stand alone in the yard, knowing exactly where it is working. So those are the values. This alpha value is if you send the burst without round edges, you can hear the click, you know. It's changed from 0 to full amplitude, so you hear the click in the speaker. But if you make it soft, the change from 0 to the value, the click disappear. It's softer in the air. This is what I was doing. So I am trying with different frequencies, different gains, a lot of variations, different controllers. The ESP32 standard is different than the ESP32 C3. It has a different core CPU, and it behaves different. So it's okay. Actually, the master can ask the beacon anything, the shape of the pulse, the size, the amplitude, everything, and when to send it. And every beacon has an address, so you can change the delays of the transmission of the beacons to make them work simultaneously. I mean, you can have several distant pulses in the signal, and each pulse belongs to a different beacon. So when you analyze the audio signal, you know which beacon sent which pulse and at what distance is the beacon. The idea is to compute more than 10 samples per second. So you have a smooth movement. My idea is to show in the club. Do you remember the track I bring to the table
Yeah.
2 weeks ago? Well, the idea is to have a couple of beacons outside the track, and the robot will move all around the track without using sensors, just knowing exactly where it is, asking the beacons where I am, and moving over the track with precision without actually seeing the track, just knowing the distance to each beacon. And because you have two microphones, you know in what direction you are going. So I have all the theory working, but I need to do a lot of coding to make it works. I was testing this with a drill on to check that I use a Dremel. Wait just a second. My wife thinks that I am crazy because I am yelling when I doing the measurements. I am yelling, turning on the Dremel to make noises, to be sure that the system works, no matter what is the sound environment. So behaving really, really nice in this way, okay? Of course, you cannot put this in the microphone, close to the microphone, but it can be a couple of feet, and it works okay. If I turn on let me power on. This is the master asking for pulses to the beacon, and this is sending the pulses. Actually, you can put your hand in between, and it still works because the frequency is so low that pass through my hand. If you use ultrasound, it won't work. That's why I'm using so low frequency to make the trees and the people move between the master and the beacon without disturbing the measurement. It's working.
Very cool.
Let me show what I am. I have a software in my computer. Let me show you this. Okay. Share, screen share. To share the okay. Let me move away the beacon.
Hmm.
No, I don't really know what I'm looking at.
Okay, can you? This
Pretty
is
sure
the
it must be
this is the
out.
position. The distance of the beacon is related with this distance.
Yeah, I don't know whether horizontal axis is fine.
Let me change the sharing.
I think pretty
Share. Can you see? Okay. This is the application in using processing. It's a language similar to the C++. So my mobile is sending to the computer all the values of the measurement, and I am computing the distance. You see here the distance, 270 centimeters, and you see how it changed the values. I can put my hand between the beacon and the master, and it continue measurement, the measurement. Now, all these different signals here after the main peak are bouncing signals from the walls of the office. Let me turn on the Dremel. You hear the Dremel? I am talking and the measurement is still working. So this is it.
Very, very cool. You made a lot of progress with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My idea is to make it something very sophisticated and then make a version, a very cheap version of the same system that costs nothing, just for hobbies, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
well, let's check with Ray, see if Ray's got anything new.
Ray!
Ray's just here.
Nothing. What happened with the laser, for the metal cutting laser?
I've been fighting the city about getting permits and getting this approved and get that approved, and all the wire has to be through certain conduits, and I had to get a new electrical panel, and the electric company brought in 240-volt C three-phase, and then we told them, hey, this had to be 480 three-phase, so I had to get a new electrical panel.
Oh my God.
And then they said, well, because it's 480, you have to have all this done with permits. And then Duke Energy came in and said, well, in order for us to measure the 480 voltage, you have to have a CT panel, a special pickup system for picking up the amperage that's on the wire. So I had to get a CT panel for the whole crap. And then the city came back and said, with all this work that's being done, it needs to be kept track of properly by a certified architectural engineer. So you have to get an architect that can make sure that all the wires are run through the appropriate conduit, not just that they'll trust an electrician with the permits and certifications. So now they want me to get a architect, and I'm pissed off about it. And Duke Energy says not just that they have to put on the CT pickup sensor, but the transformer that's on the pole adjacent to my building does not have 480 three-phase output ready for it. So they scheduled the 18th of this month, or the week of the 18th, to come out here, remove the transformer from the pole, and to put up a new transformer.
Wow.
So
It's
this is something I could
a
write a book
huge
about.
project.
Yeah, I could write a freaking book about this, not just a little journal or, hey, here's my blog. I could write a freaking book about all the things that have gone on with this project. So,
Well, did you piss off somebody at the city?
no, I even had my wife out there going, please, people,
My nephew was trying to
Uh-oh.
operate a business in Kansas City, Kansas, probably 30 years ago. And every inspector that came by had the same motion.
I lived in KC. Yep.
Where
So,
I
Downtown.
one of the places I read from when I had a shop, the guy said, just do it. If the city says something, pay the fine. It's cheaper than getting the permits.
I don't know about that.
Well, not for what
But-
you're doing, probably not.
This stuff has been done. I think it's done correctly. I looked at some stuff today. I'm like, yeah, this guy took a shortcut. I'm kind of pissed off about it, but I can't yell at him about it right now. I just want the damn thing to get done. And
I was just putting signage up, and he told me, just put it up. If the city says something about it, just
like
pay the
signage.
fine.
I had a problem with signage down at Liberty Fairfield area.
Yeah.
And one of my neighbors called and said, you're not allowed to have a moving sign. I'm like, well, it's made out of fabric. Of course it's gonna move. But it's not intended to be a waving sign. It just is made out of fabric. And they're like, well, we don't care. It moves. You can't have signs over here. We don't like it in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
I'm not even in your neighborhood. I'm several hundred feet away.
The only thing that the city ever told me was I had a car topper on top of my car sitting out in front of the shop, and they said, okay, we don't care that if you want to put something on your car, but it's got to be permanent. And I was like, oh, okay. But they never fined me or anything. They just said, just take it off. We won't say anything. So I did. And
Well-
they didn't say anything at all about the illegal sign that I had up on the building. Well, I didn't get a permit for the sign.
If everything goes great according to schedule, I'll have electricity to my laser machines by the 27th, 25th, something like that.
This has
And-
been what? 2 years? 4 years?
Wow.
Damn near 4 years since I actually started. And like, this isn't just like, oh yeah, I want a laser. It was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and accept this quote. It was at the beginning of COVID, right before
Yeah.
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the
we
COVID
remember.
stuff hit real hard.
Yeah.
And
And the
I went ahead
containers
and
costed
paid
a
for
bunch.
all of it. I paid 100% of the purchase and shipping. And then they were like, oh, well, because of COVID, the cost of shipping has gone up. And I was like, well, just hold it in your factory until shipping goes back down. And I just, it's so depressing. If I'd have kept that money, I could have been driving a brand new Corvette for the past 4 years. So I think that might even include the cost of insurance. So
Yeah.
You
yeah,
can drive you can drive a Corvette without oil changing, like Leroy.
Yeah. Don't
Try it.
change the oil in the brand new Corvette. Don't learn from me.
I'll probably let somebody else do it. But okay. Besides that, if you guys are looking to put a battery in your project, I have a whole bunch of these. There's cell phone batteries. They went to the back of the cell phone case, and they have like little chargers and stuff with them. So right on the circuit board, well, it takes a standard
USB-C.
micro SD or a
Okay.
iPhone Lightning charger. I got a couple different kinds, but it's got connectors on the circuit board for the battery, and the battery is actually a 3.8 volt. So I suppose you could put a 18650 with the charger to just take the circuit board, okay? But if you wanted to put the whole thing on your system, the circuit board also has an output for 5 volt, so you can output 5 volts straight to your Arduino. So I thought that was pretty cool. And while you're charging it, it's got these 4 little LEDs that shows it's increasing in charge level. So I thought, well, this is cool, and it's a lot better than me just throwing them all in the dumpster and hoping I don't get caught for throwing batteries in the landfill. So, if you guys want any of these, like I said,
I've got a
one.
few from the first round that I
Okay,
haven't
round
used
numbers.
yet.
How many of those have you got?
I probably have about 150, 200, I don't know, something like that.
So 300 volts worth.
300 what's worth?
300 volts worth.
Oh yeah, sure.
There you go. How are your laser off of those?
I could switch it to a battery powered car.
Huh.
Yeah. Maybe not.
You got anything, Steve, going on?
Nope, nothing.
Mike?
As you know, I'm a trash trawler. And Sunday, I picked up my 9th television.
Oh my God.
And that doesn't count the 15 I've already taken apart.
I stopped after the 4th television.
I'm sorry?
I did it, but I stopped after the 4th. I only took 4 TVs and stopped looking for them.
Well, the best trash find was a 55-inch 4K smart TV. In the dumpster.
Needed a few.
No. Needed to be plugged in and hooked up to the wireless network.
Nice.
I've seen some nice televisions lately on Craigslist, and the reason that they were on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist is because they had a problem with the backlight. The backlight was dead,
Yeah.
and I'm expecting that probably wasn't a big deal.
And any that are like that, I take out the Fresnel lens and the diffusers and pitch the rest in the trash. I'm not trying to make a working collection. Many years ago, I had a friend of mine that was in Bolivia. And I asked, he's a master's degree, EE. And I took a picture of the circuit board and flipped it over, took a picture of the other side, and then reversed them. And I said, I think this connection, this one, are what needs to go be pinned together to do something. I think it was a surround sound speaker of some sort. And he said, well, consumer goods are so cheap, it's probably not worth the cost of repairing it. And I said, Steve, this is not Bolivia. People throw things out because they get dusty. And that, I think that's the case with a lot of stuff. It gets dusty, it's time to throw it out.
Or they went from a 55 to a 65-inch TV.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've got it hooked up and it's got more features than I ever need. I talked to you about a display port to get 4K out of the computer so I could take a look at our vacation photos on a 4K TV. And I've got the computer generating HDMI in 4K, but they're both going into the back of the 55-inch 4K TV. So if you put a regular Windows screen up on a 4K TV, you have to get up off the sofa and walk across the room with a magnifying glass to be able to read what's going on. So I can switch between the two channels, the two inputs on the TV, and have regular observable text, or I can switch to photographs and get the full resolution out of it.
You can also switch the scaling on Windows,
Yeah.
make it 200%, and it would be visible in 4K.
There's a reason I didn't do that.
Looks really ugly when you go back to the 19.2 monitor.
That we got too many machines. That's the only machine where we only have a single monitor hooked up to the machine. And I'm not really, this has been months ago, and I don't really remember why I didn't do the scaling.
But it remembers that for the model of the monitor. So if you unplug it and plug it into another monitor, it'll go back to default scaling until you change it. Scaling didn't work too well in 10. It's better in 11, but not a lot. And it didn't work at all in 7.
This is a 10 machine, and it had started out as being a 7 machine, so that may be the reason. I just don't remember.
It worked really well.
Hey, does anybody need a 3D printer?
I don't need any more.
I still have a a few 3D printers.
Is a kit or is assembled?
I have 4 of them that are fully assembled and working good, and I have like 10 more to build.
Okay,
Those are those Andrew?
I can pick one working when I send you my box bender. This is still in the shed, but it's too heavy. I have a problem with my back. So maybe at the end of the month, I will bring to you the bender, and I can pick a 3D printer.
How much
Sounds
for a
good to me.
kit?
Deal.
So, do you know the backstory on the 3D printers?
You bought a bunch of them, right?
I bought one for my son, and it was doing good, and we were using it for business as well as fun and learning. And then we decided, hey, we needed another one, so I bought a second one. We were printing 2 things at the same time, and then I damaged the hot end on one of the 3D printers, and I needed to get some replacement parts. So I started looking around on eBay for spare parts, and I ended up just finding Ender 3 V2 printers for $45 on eBay, or they were like $60 on eBay. And I messaged the guy and said, hey, if I buy 4 of these, can I get them for $50? And I ended up buying 4 for $45, but I had to go get them up in Columbus, Ohio. And it was lucky for me that I was already going up there. And so I just stopped in when I got done with my customer. But all of them are returns that were sent back to Micro Center, damaged for whatever reason, missing parts. And Leroy found out that, and at least in his case, the whole problem was just that the person had it selected to run on 230 volt instead of running on 110.
Pulling my hair out.
And so I got probably 3 more of those that were the same problem. I had another one that somebody opened the box and just realized they didn't want to put it together, and it had never been taken out of the box. Another one, somebody put it together and they put the bearings in the wrong place. So the eccentric cam, they had it in the wrong place. I put it together the correct way, and the thing works great. So I've been working on putting these together and using this as time to teach my son how to do assembly of the 3D printers. And I had one board, one printer that it has a board failure that it won't read the SD card. So I needed some more spare parts, and I thought, instead of cannibalizing one right now, I'm going to call that seller up and see what he's got. So I ended up going back up there and visiting on a Saturday. I took my son with me, and we bought like 6 more at a total of $50. But, so that's, less than $10 each. The problem with these remaining 6 is that they were definitely missing parts. They're missing motors, missing axis switches, missing a controller, missing the hot end. So maybe out of those 6, I might get 2 working plus spare parts. And still, we thought it was a pretty good deal. We bought some other supplies as well, some other computer stuff, and it was fun for me and Aiden to go up to Columbus. But it's up in Hilliard, Ohio, and this guy has a lot of computers, gaming chairs, gaming centers, some other 3D printers. So now my son is like, oh, the Ender 3 V2 is too small. He wants to get one. He wants one that is a lot faster and has a workspace of like 400 by 400. And I'm like, 400? That's like 16 by 16 inches. I mean, we're talking huge. No. So I
So
told him
what
the
do
only way I
what
could
do you
afford to
like-
buy one of those is if we sell some of the ones that we have now.
What are you looking to get out of these?
Well, we bought them as not working, possibly, hey, I got to fix it and find out what's wrong. So retail price is probably somewhere between 125 to $180. And we're hoping to get like 75 bucks out of them each, but I'm not going to sell them if they don't work. So that's why we're putting them together and testing them.
Okay,
So, and we're running some print jobs out of them, making sure that they read the SD cards, all the parts are there. So we've had somebody come from Springfield, a college up on the Columbus side of Springfield. He come down here and my son trained him how to use the laser, how to clean it, and how to use the 3D printer, how to clean the table and how to load a project in. And we gave him like this whole list of like, here's the software you need, here's the accessory tools that you need. And my son was really thorough about helping this guy. It was funny, because he's only 10 years old. But so we had somebody else from Cincinnati come up and bought one. Leroy got one really cheap. And my
Leroy
dad
was
wanted one, but
Leroy was the guinea pig.
yes, Leroy was definitely the guinea pig. Yeah.
So I did.
I'm interested in one. I'd like to buy one.
Okay. That'd be great.
and I really don't want another project. So if these are working, and I
Yeah,
don't
they're
care
fully
whether
working.
they have two toggle switches and I have to screw a light bulb in.
No,
sure
it's like
that's
any other
functional.
3D printer. You have to clean the bed. You have to check and make sure that the table's level.
Level. Yep.
You load in your software and you
Yeah.
print.
I just don't want to be in the position of having to do a tremendous amount of diagnostics. I don't care whether it's been cobbled together out of three different machines or even versions or
And Enders
anything.
are pretty straightforward. There's
Yeah,
a lot of
it's-
support for them.
So yeah, I'd be interested also. Thank you.
The Ender 3s, you're not going to have too many problems with them. I mean, and there's a huge community behind them. So if there is some weird issue,
Yeah.
somebody will know what's going on with it.
I mean, not to mention you're gonna have me and Leroy and
Steve,
Steve and Aiden. Aiden can help you.
yeah. So they've got Micro Center has an Ender 3 version 3 right now, open box for $125. So 75 bucks probably sounds fair.
Yeah. And just like I told, I've got a little advertisement on Craigslist, and it basically just says that you can come here, take a look at it, go through the screen, make sure everything works, and we'll print out something just to show you that it does what it's supposed to do. And we'll get you all your tools. And if you want to take the original box, you can take the original box. Let me see if I can find my Craigslist advertisement.
Okay, well, let me back up a second. For the one that I'm interested in from you, I don't care whether it's a box or a laundry basket or however it is. Other people may be interested in that. I don't care. And you don't have to prove to me it works. If you tell me it works, I believe you.
Okay.
So no demonstration is necessary.
If you look on Craigslist and you just look up Ender 3 V2 in Middletown, you'll see it. How do I share my screen?
So again,
There you go. So you see my screen here? It shows the dragon.
Okay, how many of those dragons have you got now?
I think he makes one every other week. His favorite thing to make is a cat. And here, what this is making is the top half and the bottom half of a mold that makes a poop. So he was making poop. This is a micro SD holder. And but yeah, but it's a 4.3-inch color LCD screen. This is one of the 3D printers, and like I said, we've got 10 or so of them. But they're all the same as far as like having a glass bed and stuff. And here in this, we're selling them on Craigslist for $100. But if you guys want one, you know, it's been just as much fun to have me and my son put them together. We get to spend the weekends, an hour or two here, and he's excited about it and he's learning stuff. So for me to get him excited, and he spends 2 or 3 hours with me, and we put together a 3D printer. So he's learning about the belts and the gears and what stepper motors do. And I'm hoping this gets him even more interested in 3D design. At this point, I do 3D design, but he's just downloading stuff off of Thingiverse. Okay.
Mhm.
Cool.
You gonna be home this weekend?
Yes, I am in town this weekend. I'm actually installing garage doors over at the 601 building, but I'm around.
Okay, I'll give you a call later.
Okay. Okay. And you guys have my number? I don't know.
I think I have it in the phone. Hang on a second. Let me look. Yeah. Still ending in 2748.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's cash with an ID, right?
What is it, a 30-foot warranty?
We
I'll carry it out.
guarantee if it doesn't work when you get it out the door, you can
You
bring
know,
it
and,
back.
I stand by the stuff that we do. I'm not like, oh, I hope it works during the sample project. No, it's not like that. We have plenty of spare parts and stuff. So if you guys need something, I mean, Leroy has known me that I give away robots, and I so
Yes. Ray gives away robots.
so
My
I
experience has been you have been very generous to members of this group for as long as I have known you.
I try. Um, but Steve has been the best. He has.
What did I do?
All your time and helping me with those servers, and
Oh.
come and help me with my my Ubiquity system. Man, I couldn't tell everybody how much I appreciate that.
Well, it
Teaching me
doesn't
all of
compare to
that about the
cupcakes.
Ubiquity system and the networking there. I really appreciate that.
My pleasure.
And as far as progress and other stuff, the journal building is coming along. I know you guys have been curious about other stuff and what's going on, but yeah, so still working on the journal building. That's going to be like my lifelong project, because it's going to take a lifelong time to finish it. Yeah, and every bit of all the money I can save up and spend.
See, there's a plus side to that. You can't die until you finish all your projects.
Yeah,
And at the current rate, you will
I'll
live
never
for-
die. Nah, I went over there today, and we've got walls that need drywall compound and drywall sheets and lots of electricity. And a couple weekends ago, I went and was installing lights and repairing outlets and just so many things, just trying to get it better, nicer. And then I went and talked to an electrician, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna need this breaker panel and that breaker panel, and then we're gonna need attention to the elevators and just the electrical wire, conduit, junction boxes, breaker distribution stuff. We're talking somewhere between $70,000 and $100,000. And it just makes me cry because I know I can't even rent out part of the building until that stuff is done. And it's just killing me.
Uh.
But I'll do it. I will eventually get it done. That, or I'll just cave in and sell the whole building.
You put a lot of work into that building, right? Don't cave
God,
yet.
yeah. I mean, I've been keeping photos as I go through, and make a change here and there and there, and it's been amazing the change that's been happening, but it's still so far away from a profitability line or any income line, and but whatever.
I hate doing this, but it's 7 o'clock and
I get it.
they don't have the room anymore, technically.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
guessing nobody's standing around to go
Not
in the
yet.
room, but
Thanks for
I
the
do
number.
have pardon me, for interrupting it, if I did interrupt. Does anybody have a line on an Epson PhotoFast 680 photographic scanner?
Scanner?
Wow.
It's an automatic scanner for photographs, does 2 a second at 600 dots per inch. And not only does the face, but if it recognizes handwriting on the back of the photograph, it'll scan that too. My sister has like 6,000 photographs.
I have an
None of them
automatic
can-
scanner that was meant for the Mediclinic, and it's a automatic document scanner that I don't know, but it is a higher resolution. I don't think it does 2 per second, but it does. You can put a stack of documents in it. I imagine you could put a stack of photos in there.
I have tried that with photographs on a document scanner. And the characters that are produced have big heads and skinny bodies and one arm longer than the other. There's a lot of distortion there.
Well, this had to be a high quality scanner because we would scan x-rays and other medical documents for people like doctors to analyze later and to look at it, look at the detail, and then to be able to give medical diagnosis on that. So I've
you
got that
you
scanner.
have one of those currently?
Yes.
Okay. When I talk to you about the 3D printer, I may also want to have a conversation with you about that.
Okay. I'll go see what is the status of my scanner. Where's it at? I'm sure it's over at the clinic. So, but the clinic's been shut down for a while.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, well, I was bleeding just as much as any other patient coming in there, but I was bleeding money, a lot of it. Now that we did taxes here last week, I realized how much it did cost me. So I'm glad I shut it down before it ruined me.
wow.
I in total it come up to the range of $700,000. So it is just crazy. Some of that, a little over 100,000 was cash I put into it for medical supplies, salaries, stuff like that. And I'll never get that back. But the rest of it was like I've got some treatment tables, scales, otoscope, and the real estate, the actual property that I bought. But stuff like painting and cleaning and polishing floors, I'll never get that money back.
So,
Not really.
so basically Ray's saying that that scanner's worth $700,000 to him.
Yeah. I wish I
really
wish I
nice
could get the
scanner.
money out of it.
That's a heck of a scanner.
It is one heck of a scanner. It is. And I felt like they bullied me into buying it, being a higher quality scanner.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at it, it has to be a higher grade quick scanner for doing the medical diagnosis. I understood it at the point, but
Is it one of the Fujitsu's?
yes.
Yeah, that is a good scanner.
Those are nice scanners.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Well,
I'm going to call
I'm
it.
not committed to a $700,000 scanner.
Don't commit. Don't commit. It's all good. We'll talk about it later, okay?
Sure.
I did put my number in the chat. I didn't know if anybody else had seen that, but otherwise, just send me an email or Leroy, and I approve for Leroy to give out my phone number. So
Cool.
Well, I already had it, so.
Yeah,
good.
I think most of us have your number by now, but
Okay. Cool.
so I'm going to call it. I'm not feeling so good, and I know Patty's made some food, so
Yeah.
I've been sitting over here coughing most of the meeting. So
I didn't know if you guys knew it, but I just flew in from Vermont.
wow.
I just landed, and it had been fly there, rush. I didn't even have time. I had like 5 hours a night to rest, which wasn't even enough time to get a hotel. So I have been rush for the past 50 or so hours. I'm gonna go home and go to bed.
Yeah. We all need it. So
Hey,
Good
bye
night.
guys. Later.
we'll see you. We're at the library next week, so
Okay.
it's a short
Okay.
meeting, but we're at the library, and I'll see you guys next week, hopefully.
Bye.
Take care.
Good.